Hello, welcome to another part of the series of our mini book. Now we're going to, in the last one, we finished putting our pockets together, so now we're going to put the, whatever we decide to put on the flap, okay? So for the first one here, I'm just going to put a sheet of paper, just to make it a flap, cut to 6 1/4 by 9 1/4. And the first thing I'm going to do is apply a strip of adhesive to the edge of this piece of paper, and then I'm going to apply one to the edge of my flap, and then I'm going to very carefully line them up just on this side of my score mark because I don't want to go over it. Line it up as best as I can and press it down, and then when you flip it back it should line up nicely. Okay, and then you could do a number of things with this if you wanted to. You could decorative edge this if you wanted to. You could just leave it plain. You can do a lot of things with it. For now I'm just going to leave mine plain. Okay, and then the second thing I'm going to do is make an envelope to go onto the flap. So what I did is I took my 8 1/2 11 piece of paper and I put it in with the 8 1/2 by 11 at the top, and I scored it at 1/2 inch and 6 1/2, and then I cut it off at 7. Okay, then I turned it around and I scored it at 9 1/4. Okay. What I'm going to do then is cut off the excess on the top portion there. Just going to remove that like so, and remove that. Simple and easy, and then I'm just going to take a little bit off there. So that's what I have now. Moved the corners of that flap, and then I took the corners of that flap and left this off. Okay, our next step then is to cut a piece of paper to fit over this. This is going to be an envelope. Okay, so what I need to do is I need to measure, and I cut mine so that I made mine so that the inside, the finished size of the envelope is going to be 6 by 9 1/4. So what I need to cut a piece of paper to cover this is going to be 6 by 9 3/4. Okay, so get a piece of paper, we get this, open it up, and the first cut I'm going to make is 9 3/4. Cut. And then the second one I'm going to make is 6. And I made the pocket a tiny bit smaller than the flat page just because that's what I wanted to work with. Okay. Then I'm going to put this in here like this, and I'm going to score this at 1/2 inch. That's it, just 1/2 inch there on the bottom. Then I'm going to remove this. Remove that, just like that. Move this. Then I'm going to take my circle cutter here, and I'm going to find the center. You could easily do this with a punch as well, but I like doing it with a circle because I don't have a big enough punch. Okay, so I'm going to find my center there, and then I'm going to decide I want a nice big, I want a big one, but I don't want it to be too deep. So I'm going to, what I did here to make it easier is I lined my center mark up with a line that's on my grid mat, okay? Then I'm going to take the center mark of my circle and I'm going to line it up with that so that I know that I'm centered when I'm cutting it, and I move it all the way up because I want a nice wide one, but I don't want it to be too deep. So I'm going to cut this. I think I'm going to cut this. I'm going to do 4 3/4. And then you'll see what I mean once I remove it. So I have a nice opening, but it's not too deep. Okay? Alrighty. So now we've got that done. And then I like to go over, because that cutter kind of raises the paper a little, so I'm just going to go over it with my bone folder and flatten it out. Then I'm going to fold that mark. Then I'm going to get the bottom of my envelope, just like that, and like that, and this is the top of my envelope. Okay, I want to before I put my envelope together, I want to put a string on it. What I'm doing right now is just rounding the edges of the flap. Okay. Then I'm going to find my center on here again. And I'm going to make a little mark. Doesn't matter because we're going to cover it up. Just found my center there. Then I'm going to place this on here. And I know, oops. Oh, that's not good. I'm going to have to just remove a little tiny bit of the top here. Okay. There we go. Alright, now let's try this again. Going to place this on here all the way at the top. I'm not adhering it down yet. All I'm doing is placing it on here so I can get my placement of my tie perfectly. So I'm putting that on there. And then from my circle, from the mark that I made at the top, I'm just going to go down, I think I'll go down, that's about 3 inches. I'm going to do that, like that. Okay, now I'm going to take a piece of scrap paper and I'm going to use this little circle punch, which I'm not exactly sure how wide it is. It's a Recollections punch. I'm going to cut 2 of them. And then I'm going to get 2 brads. You could do this with eyelets as well. I'm choosing to use brads. And also, if you want this decorated, you should do that now. If you want to put a decorative piece of paper on there. I think I do, so I'm going to go ahead and grab a piece of paper. That's the downside of doing these, is that you have to plan ahead, and I didn't plan ahead, so bear with me 1 minute here. I'm just gonna try to find a piece of paper that I like. And I know that this is 6 by 9 1/4, so I'm gonna cut my paper to that off, and then I'm going to cut my paper down to 5 3/4, and 9. So essentially all I did was remove 1/4 of an inch, and then it's gonna look like that. Oops, I forgot I cut a little bit off, so I'm just gonna remove a tiny bit more from the bottom there, just like that. Okay, so then this is what we have here. Okay, and then one last step. I just want to just lining it up here, and then I'm gonna hold it, flip it over. I'm just gonna draw that, and then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna cut on the far side, so I'm just doing just a little bit over the circle. So I removed a little more, or a little past the circle. Okay? If you were inking, now would be the time that you would want to ink it up. That didn't work very well. I'm gonna have to remove a little bit more here. Actually, I think what I'm gonna do is use this. I'm gonna find my 4 3/4 mark. And I'm going to normally a really easy way to do this is to do your cut mark first, and then just cut off the bottom. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut it again at 4 15/16. And let's see if that helps. There we go, much better. Okay, so that's my finished project, or my finished, not finished, you know what I mean. There we go. Never mind, ignore that. Just gonna measure how far down this is. This is at 3 1/4, so after I put this on, I want to go down 3 1/4 and make my mark. If you already have these kind of envelopes, more power to you, because then you don't have to do this. You can make it fit with yours. But I really like the way these envelopes work, so I wanted an envelope like this. forgot I was going to distress those edges, but oh well. I'm not going to distress them now. I'll just distress them on the box and call it good. Okay, make my mark at 3 1/4. Perfect. Then I take my circles. I'm going to get out the brad I want to use. I have these pretty little pastel ones. I think I'm going to use the green one. And is that green? Are they both green? Perfect. Okay. Oopsie. That worked well. Alright. So then the next step here, or what I did, that's not in the center, is, hold on here, 3 and 3. If it's not in the center, you'll notice when you try to wrap the string, so try to make sure you get it as close to the center as you can. Okay. Now my next step then is to take my, I'm using a really tiny brad, so I can't use a hole punch. You could use a hole punch if you have a little hole punch, but I normally just use my poker, which I can't seem to find because of course I didn't put it away right. Here it is. So what I'm going to do is poke the center of that, just like that. I'm going to poke the center of that one as well. And then we're going to find the string that we want to use. I think I'm going to use this one. I like this grayish baker's twine. Okay, so what we want to do is poke our brad through, and then I like to open up my brad a little bit, and I put my string that I'm using in the center right through the middle, and then I wrap it around one twine, and then whoops, then this string is really thick, so it's going to be a little bit harder to work with. But then what I do is I pull the tongs together. I forgot a step. Excuse me a moment. You need to also poke your hole in this. Poke your hole and make it a little bit big because it's going to be a little bit harder to get the brad through with the twine on it. Once you do that, open it up on the other side and spread it out as best you can. Whoops. Messed up again. Sorry. This should be the top. Can you kind of see how it's wrapped around there? I need to get a better webcam. Open it up like that. Spread it out. And push it down. I tend to use a tool that can help it to go flat as possible. And then there you have your first little bit. And I also tend not to cut it off the string until after I wrap it so that I know exactly how much I need. Okay, now all you do for the next one is put your eyelet into the hole, open it up, and lay it flat. You really want this one to be flat because otherwise whatever you stick in here can get caught on those brads. Sometimes if I know I'm going to be putting a lot of stuff in and out, I'll just take a little piece of tape. Any kind of tape really will work because you can't see it, so you can use clear tape or whatever you have laying around. I'm going to use a little bit of this. And I only do this to the inside of the tag or the inside of the envelope because it's not going to show. This one, it will show, but what I will do if I want to cover it is put a piece of decorative paper over it. Now when I slide things in and out of here, they won't get stuck on the brad because the tape will help them slide right over it. Okay? Then next step is to take this, and the first couple of times you do it, it's going to be a little hard because the circle is stiff. I like to just wrap it around there a couple of times to get it going. Okay, then all I do is wrap it once, bring it to the top, wrap it again, and bring it to the top, and then I cut. If you want to wrap more, you can. If you don't, that's good too. Okay, so now we have our envelope. Okay, and it's decorated on the front. I know it seems a little involved, but if you make it in steps instead of all, you know, cut all the pieces out and get it ready to go, instead of just one at a time like I did, if you're making a few of them, then it will go quicker, I promise. Okay, so next thing we have to do is unwrap this. We have to adhere this down. Okay, so to start, what I'm going to do is adhere the bottom flap down because I want the bottom flap underneath the side flaps. Okay, so what I'm going to do is put a little bit of my adhesive on the bottom there. I'm going to fold it up. I'm going to push these sides in a little so that I can just kind of place my bottom and use the sides as a guide, and it should work really, really well. Push it in there and then set it, and then if you turn it over, it should be lined up perfectly, and now you can't even tell that you made this in two pieces. Okay, so then the next step is to put our adhesive on our sides. Whoops. Okay. Try to keep your adhesive on the paper a little better than I did. Make sure your sides are down and then fold it up. I like to work up from the middle and then push out whenever I make an envelope because I like the way that that looks better. Then we bring this down. We're going to wrap the string around there again, just like so, and we have an envelope. Okay, now it's not finished on the back side, but all we need to do is grab an unfinished page. I'm gonna first do my pocket here. I'm also thinking that it might be kind of nice to put one of these into the pocket. But for this one, I'm going to place it on the back flap here. Okay, like so. And then we're just going to glue it to the back like that. So when we turn the page, we're going to have a blank page here, and then when we turn it again, we will have an envelope. Okay? Actually, it's going to turn like... Did I make this one wrong? Yes, I did. All I did was flipped it around, so I'm going to do it this way. Because I want these to be the front side and this to be the back side. So when I turn my pages, they're going to turn like this. So then this is what you'll see when you turn the page, okay? So let's put our adhesive down for our pockets here. Again, from the center and then out. Okay. Then for this one, I'm going to do it the same way I did on the other one. I'm going to see. Okay. I'm going to put my adhesive on the outside of this flap. Much better. Then I'm going to turn my envelope over, and I know it's going to go on this side, so I'm going to put my adhesive on this side. Then that way I have adhesive both right on the edges. But also for this one, I'm going to put a little bit more in the middle because this is going to have a little more activity than just a flap. So I want it to really be stuck down. Now you'll notice I closed my flap this time because I want to line this up with the bottom instead of lining it up with my score mark because that didn't work out so well last time. So now we have that page ready to go. When you turn the page, then this is what you're going to have. Okay, so that's 2 pages down. I'm going to make another flap page. I think these has to come. No, these come up this way. And then this folds up like that. Whoops, we're running kind of long. I'll finish this page and then we'll come back for another part. Okay, there's that. And then we're going to do this fold. Then we're going to open this up again. And we're going to apply our adhesive here and here. Okay. Then I'm going to close my flap. I'm going to line my piece of paper up with the bottom here. That's going to help me get a better match here, I think. So there we go. Then when opened up, we can press it down really good again. And we have another page. Okay, so now I will be back with the next page. And the next part, okay?